Good night, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Just Reasoning Live, a special election edition. We have a bag of people, as we say in Jamaica, with us here tonight. We have some guests from HCPA, the Houston Caribbean Professionals Association. We have Mr. Sledge representing Haiti. We have Leslie Christmas representing TNT, Trinity de Bone. She's one of our regular viewers, so this is what she actually look like. So all that nonsense you hear talk online, now you get to talk about it in real life. And we have the pride of St. Lucia, Miss Badish Karima. So, and we have one of our regulars, Mr. Special, and then we have Doc.
Hello.
Good night. All right, so on Just Reason, we normally talk about a range of topics from news, politics, sports, music, and what have you. Tonight is a special edition, as you'd imagine, with everything going on. In the midst of election season still going on. I mean, probably many people thought that was going to be, have one night, and it was, it's an election call like 11 o'clock. But as we sit here today, we don't know with 100% certainty who the next president of the United States will be. I will say it looks trending favorably towards Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. How about my Biden-Harris shirt? But, it's still not 100% called. So, and in just kind of watching the temperature I checked the temperature on social media last night and so on. I mean, people are freaking out. We're like, I can't believe we are here again. Is this fool really about to win? Mm-hmm. With everything that has been going on, 230,000 people dead through his negligence with coronavirus, all the racism, the misogyny, the just dysfunction day in and day out. To think that there are that many people in this country who say, you know what? Sign me up for 4 more years of that. That was a little depressing. So let me just kick it off with a question. I'll direct it to Special. What surprised you about last night and how things went, if anything?
Well, first and foremost, I was surprised that he actually got so many votes, especially, Latin votes. I was expecting a lot more trending towards Biden, of course, because of, his history with, the Latin people. But, even though Trump did some real horrible stuff with a lot of immigrants, they were still willing to vote for him, especially down here in Texas. I think about the kids being in cages, the people at the border, the families being separated. They still voted for him, and that was a major surprise.
I mean, it's like people like F them kids, it's like, it didn't even matter. It didn't even really come up as a campaign issue. It's just something that we've just gotten used to, that this is America. You come here, we're going to take it from your kids. We may not return the kids. We're going to deport you, and we're just going to hold on to your kids. And this is something that just kind of happened. How people just going about their business like it's no big deal. Christmas, what you say?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I was shocked to see that many Latino votes go to him. I knew that there would be a handful of the black vote, depending on which side of the spectrum people's opinions went with faith versus, regular things. So it was somewhat shocking in terms of the Latinos more so than it.
Yeah, on the Latinos specifically, I think that the mistake that when I say we, just generally, when I speak about the Latin community, I speak about that as just one Latin group. When they are so different. Cubans are very different from Mexicans, and they're different from Puerto Ricans, Venezuelans, Central Americans. And so you know, they don't all view things similarly because they have very different histories. And also the age of them matters. Like, you know, like most of my family in the US lives in South Florida. And from what I understand about the community there is the older Cuban population is heavily Republican. So they are basically, when Castro, you know, take over and, you know, turning the place into communist, the wealthy people who were able, it's essentially the wealthy white Cubans who were able, who could afford to leave, they left. And so they are the ones who went to South Florida. And so what we're seeing is all their descendants. So when you think of how they think like rich white people, you know? So like the black and mixed race Cubans, they weren't on those boats that had left when Castro took over. So they have a different mindset. So I think we can't, it's really, it's a disservice to say, you know, the Latin community, I think, because they're all so very different. You know what I mean? Haitian sensation. What do you say? What surprised you about last night, if anything? Let me ask you a different question.
Well,
right, go on.
So
go on.
From my vantage point, I've been paying attention to just the landscape of the country very closely for several months now, leading up to the elections, even into the debates. And what I've seen is that, you know, there's a lot of Trump's ugliness is basically being shown right now, right? The people that still voted for Trump overall, it's not that I feel like majority of them are racist or anything like that. I feel like collectively as a country, it just shows you the divide and what we place importance on. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, what they vote on policies that are true to them and represent them. If you're a business owner, then most likely you'll lean towards Trump. If you are, you know, a college student, you might lean towards more Democratic. If you are a HBCU grad, maybe what Trump did on the for extending grants to HBCU colleges for the next 10 years or so might have swayed you a little bit more. So what I'm seeing now is that the voters that typically would have voted Democratic has left the base per se, and were more so voting on their own personal issues. So that's why we see it so close right now. Everybody was thinking that it should have been a landslide because Trump is so divisive. But if you're thinking about, you know, the younger voters these days, you know, they really didn't grow up seeing the Jim Crow laws and stuff like that. So they feel like a lot of that didn't apply to them. And that goes back to the Hispanic vote right now, right? You know, Trump gained 20 to 30% more Hispanic voters in this election than he did previously. So his Hispanic base grew. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Where did those Hispanics come from all out the blue, especially if he called them, what you call
drug dealers, rapists
and all of that. So how can you hear that about your own country, but yet still, you know, have blinders on and still vote for him? Well, that's because the youth these days, they don't vote based on an emotional aspect or even a social aspect. They're voting based on what is good for them in their particular situation. So that's basically what I've seen in this election. And it shows that the country is still very divided, 50-50, you know, whereas, you know, people, if you're talking about moral standards, right? They have a tendency to say, well, Democrats are way more moral people because, you know, they're thinking about the collective whole, versus Republicans, they more so think about
individualism,
and individualism and the economy and what's best for their own individual self, right? So with that being said, the country is so torn half and half that where is that middle? There is no middle now. Now there's like a tug of war. So it's so many things that we can dive in, but I'll just let that be my first initial comments.
Yeah, I mean, it, I think it would be great if everyone voted their interests. That's what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to
Right.
vote what you think is going to be best for you and your loved ones. That's why I think everybody should vote. But I think many people just kind of vote according to what is sold to them, right? They don't really look at it. They don't really see how this is affecting me. I mean, you have in West Virginia, someplace, some coal miners up there fighting tooth and nail for so that millions of dollars aren't passed on, and that millions of dollars that aren't taxed when it is after somebody dies, because that is a Republican thing. That will never affect them on your $20,000 a year salary. That will never affect you, but you're up there fighting for it because these people say this should matter to you. So you have, they have ways of making people vote against their own interests just by turning their eye on other things. So, even though these economic issues are going to screw you, we are going to, like on to gay marriage or abortion or something, have you looking over there at that issue. Meanwhile, we're taking money out of your back pocket the whole time and not paying attention to it. So I think people voting against their interests is a big problem. Doc, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What did you learn about your country last night?
Well,
the place that you call home. What did you learn?
Prevention is better than cure. If we had, and I just hate to go back down memory lane because it's kind of sort of water under the bridge, but there still has to be a lesson that needs to be learned from this. Had we gone out in numbers 4 years ago, we wouldn't be at this destination trying to get this problem child out of.
So you're really going back to 2016?
Yes.
Boy, that's a woman right there. She'll go back.
We've got to go back and address the situation, because where did this problem start from? Had we done our due diligence 4 years prior, we wouldn't be battling with this thing right now, right? Because we're still on the edge. It looks good for Biden, but fingers crossed. We just don't know how that thing may move on from here.
But since we're there, which part would they know?
So here, hold on. I'm getting there. So this leads up to the next thing.
Women.
From this point on, especially our lovely dark people, Black people, we just need to remain ready at all times, okay? Because there's a lot of things that has happened, especially in 2020. Very, very epic. And it's not necessarily the best way for us, okay? So, we also need to understand that our votes can only be powerful and effective only if we vote. Okay? And what I've also learned is that it seems to me that association is sometimes more powerful than principle. And in that, what I'm saying is, I am a Republican, despite whatever the principles are. No, it's an example.
I know.
Right?
I was about to eject you from the meeting, but go on. I'm joking.
Right. So for example, that particular person is a Republican, and you're just a Republican necessarily by association, no matter what the principles, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Right? And the reality is, who says that adults can be brainwashed? Because we see what happened last night. President Trump has offended everybody, every nation, creed, nationality, all of us. And to me, I just kind of feel like there was really no lesson learned. I understand that he should have had some supporters last night, but why are we at this destination? The thing was very surprising and very concerning to me.
Yeah, that's the, I think what most people who are, against everything that this Trump regime stands for, what we wanted out of last night was not just a victory. We wanted it to be a resounding victory.
Absolutely.
Like a repudiation of Trumpism, where they see how much they've lost, with, six, all the seats in the Senate lost, and they see the price of their blind loyalty. We can't, no matter what happens out of I assume Biden wins, that did not happen, right? So to those people, all the things that they've turned a blind eye to, it was worth it. You know, they got their, you know, billions of dollars in tax cuts. They got, you know, 3 Supreme Court justices. They got 220 federal judges. I didn't really lose anything. You know, so, you know, I think, you know, as we look at as far as what's going to happen going forward, because the lesson was not learned because they did not pay a price. You know, assuming Biden continues and he wins, he's taking over an extremely divided country, and ones who are pretty much empowered, you know, because saying, hey, you know, we didn't really lose anything. Now, as far as what happens from this point on, you know, again, things are trending favorably. So with, you know, let's say, you know, they declare tomorrow, whatever, Biden has the votes and what have you. We know Trump will never concede. You know, he already said he's going to bring lawsuits and all this stuff. And because he's somebody who, he throws, you know, gas on, he walks around with a can of gas all day long. And any place there's a spark, he's going to drop a little bit of gas on it until it blows up. So we know he's not the kind of person who's going to kind of calm things down. He's going to go there and say this was stolen. This isn't right. So what do you think happens at that point? Badish, I'm going to come to you. What do you think will happen from this point forward until, her name is Karima. Her name is not really Badish. She's just kind of Badish. So I call her Badish. What do you think will happen from now until, you know, inauguration day, as far as the country?
Well, we're already kind of seeing signs of it. I was, you know, watching the news prior to this meeting, and some citizens in Wisconsin tried to raid one of the voting centers because there was some false information that was leaked on the internet that they were reporting more votes than actual registrations. So some local, what they're claiming Republican citizens tried to infiltrate the counting center to stop the count. Based off of, you know, what Trump was saying in regards to the election being stolen. So, I mean, it hasn't even been decided yet, and you're already seeing how people are reacting. So we can all kind of see what's happening. I know, you know, there's a lot of fear going on right now because a gun store was broken into Houston. No money was taken, only weapons.
Really? In Houston?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When? Today?
Today.
Okay. How much did you get? Okay, just joking.
No money.
No money. They just took the guns and the ammunition.
Oh, just the guns and the ammunition. Okay, no problem.
Right. And so even on election day, you know, there was a lot of Trump supporters, you know, showing out and, you know, according to news reports, intimidating voters to go vote. So, I mean, it's kind of already showing what's going to happen, and that's the fear. If Biden wins, the Trump supporters are not going to take it very well, and there's going to be a lot of conflict and unrest within the country. So,
yeah, you know, and that's, you know, that is it's a shame, right? I mean, so I've said this on here before. So like right before I left Jamaica in the 1980 election, there was a lot of turmoil. A lot of it manufactured by the United States. You know, sending the CIA and arming one political party against another because they wanted to keep Jamaica away from Cuba and communism and what have you. Where it was a very bloody election. You know, I don't know how many people were killed, but it was a very, very tense time. It's not a place where you openly talk about politics, you know, because, you know, it could be dangerous to your life. I haven't had that feel, and I was young at the time. I'm still kind of young. I just, you know, I look good, but I was young at the time, but I didn't really, I did, you know, but still, even at that young age, I realized that there was some danger around this election thing. I have not had that feeling until now, where I feel there's danger around the election. If you just look at what happened this past weekend, you know, with the, you know, with these Trump trains, as they call it, basically these, you know, big ass pickup trucks with big Trump flags, you know, hundreds of them driving all around, and you know, They stop and they block the freeway. They drive and they block the freeway on 610. They did that here in Houston. They did it in New York. They almost ran a Biden bus off the road outside of Austin. So so he has those kind of people that support him, and it's not just that that those people are out there. Is that he actively exit on? So he was like mocking this. So that is extremely powerful and dangerous when you have somebody with the power of the presidential platform who in a second can send out a tweet and reach hundreds of millions of people. And these people who are already kind of pissed off, and you're just throwing gas on and say this was stolen from us. And he's been building this narrative about stolen for months, and the way that our media landscape is, if you consume just like Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, and what have you, that's all you hear. So I think somebody said earlier on about, brainwashing. I've learned so much about people during this whole Trump experience we're going through, where you can get people, you can change reality, get people to believe something that is not, real, So, and because of that, now he has people who actually believe that this thing is being stolen from them. And it is a dangerous time. It can be a dangerous time. And he's not the kind of person who is going to turn back the dial and, bring it down a notch. He's not that kind of dude. So we could be looking at some serious times. Anybody want to comment on that before we jump on to the next topic?
Well, he may not want to accept it, but I'm ready to call him a one-term president.
You ready?
So I'm ready for one to fuck up in Bangladesh and promote our people and house. Right? Just fuck up everything and leave. I'm ready for this thing to get over. So Wani, if you're listening.
Wani, a new name that. Wani.
Yes.
It's a Wani. Fuck up your things and go on.
Yo, before we go to the next topic, I wanted to go back and touch base on what Doc said about 2016, right? And if we had mobilized and, we wouldn't be facing what we're facing right now with Trump, we wouldn't even be in this mess, right? Mm-hmm. But what I want to remind, in 2016, we had Hillary Clinton, right? Hillary Clinton.
Oh, Lord. Here we go. Here we go. Come on, Haiti. Come on, Haiti.
We're here to talk politics, right? In 2016, to a lot of people, was not the best candidate. And the country overall, wanted to be so removed from what the general everyday politician looked like that they were willing to try anything. They were willing to try something that did not fit the status quo. Hillary
but
Clinton,
not a woman. They're trying anything else, but not a woman.
They didn't want a woman too, but
they didn't want her specifically.
Me as a Haitian, right?
Here we go.
Clinton wreaked havoc. The Clintons wreaked havoc in Haiti.
Right? How so? Explain further. Why are you throwing out these slanderous accusations, sir? Can you please provide some more information?
It's factual. We can look it up.
No. That's why I'm asking you to sum it up.
I'm about to get into it, right? So
the Cliff Notes version.
All right, cool. So
not the Sledge 20-minute version, the short version.
Getting into it right now. So the rice subsidies, they poured in so many from the U.S. market. They flooded the country with cheap rice. They put the farmers out of work.
Who is they?
This is
Hillary did?
This is the Clintons. So they single-handedly destroyed.
Hold on. Are you talking about?
Give you the cliff notes. Let me give you the cliff notes.
Because the subsidies thing. The subsidies thing, that a president isn't making that decision, right? So are you talking about the Bill Clinton administration, the U.S. government at the time,
Yes, the U.S. government at the time.
So you put that on Hillary. All right, gotcha. Okay.
And even beyond the Clinton administration, when Bill Clinton was in power, even when Bush was in power, the Clintons, they had vested interest in Haiti themselves as entrepreneurs. Okay, so they went in and they.
We're gonna have to Google that.
Please do.
We will. So, and we'll post it.
Yes, we'll post it. So basically, as a Haitian, it was hard to cast a vote for Hillary Clinton, right? And a lot of people say, well, the other choice was Trump, but at the time, Trump did not do anything harmful to Haiti. So in essence, where we at right now, because the U.S. government, the status quo of how the country was run was just, we were just done. The country at the time was just done. And then plus she was a woman. I don't think the country was ready for a woman. And then so you see
3 million more votes.
This figure that was just you see Trump cleared the path and showed the way of how somebody with no political experience can come in and become president. So that's how Trump got it.
Okay. Clinton did his terms, right? Yeah.
Say that again?
For the most part, it was Hillary that was running the country when Clinton was in. So, I never voted for Trump. I never took him seriously. When Trump was running for president, initially it was a joke. And it was unfortunately a joke that honestly went bad. Mm-hmm. And because America is discriminatory and they're sexist, they would rather have that clown, that's where we're at this destination that we're at right now, than have an experienced person who was beside her husband all these years running this country. So I don't know about you, but I'd rather have somebody who has some level of experience governing than what we put in place. And honestly, I really, really think, I don't know if y'all felt it, but I felt it. Honestly, America thought Hillary had it. And I think a lot of people were just so relaxed because they thought it was just going to be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can tell you, that Wednesday morning, because I can remember it as clear as if it was yesterday. You could literally feel the tension in the air when Trump, the whole place just went silent. It was a bad joke that became a reality.
Absolute
so
100.
Whatever bad business issues that might have stepped on your corn in Haiti, it's just one of those things. But I just don't think that is enough premise to knock Hillary out of the race. But honestly, we all was just chill because we thought Hillary really.
We were all guilty.
I definitely agree with that. I believe the number one. So yes, a lot of people didn't like Hillary. A lot of people didn't like the Clintons. A lot of people wanted to turn the page from the Clintons and the Bushes and whatever. Let's move on to some new people. But with that said, still 3 million more people voted for Hillary than voted for Trump. So it's not like people hated her that much. But, I think, look, elections are about choices. Sometimes you have to, you have two choices. You have to, weigh the good and the bad. And the people who've been on a public record for a long time, you're going to have people who don't like you. That's going to happen. And you have to pick the best one.
Why we always end up in these situations? Why we have to pick the worst of two evils?
No, look here. Look. If let's say me and you running for something, right? I bring my positives, I bring my negatives. You bring your positives, you bring your negatives. Some of my negatives are going to be so heavy towards some people that they can't fool at me, and the same thing for you. So it is what I think a grown-up voter has to realize I have to make a choice because one of these two people is going to be running the country. Right? So no matter what I say, one of these two people is going to be running this country. So who do I want it to be? Yes, I don't like everything about this person. I think we get to the point where, I need to love every single thing about this person. And that will never be the case. And they all have, Biden has flaws. Kamala Harris has flaws. Obama has flaws. They all have flaws. But it's a choice. But as Doc said, I believe the number one reason why Donald Trump is president is because people are complacent. They thought, you know what, she's going to win anyway. You know, the polls say, and I talk about the polls all day long, how people need to stop paying attention to those freaking polls. They mean nothing. You sample 1,000 people and 5 million people voting, that cannot give you an accurate representation of what the vote is going to be. So ignore them. So because of the polls say Hillary was going to win, people say, you know what, I don't really like her anyway. You know, so I'm not going to bother voting. And that's going to be my moral stance. Since I don't fool with her, I'm not going to vote for her, so I can say I didn't vote for her. And so
now we in 2020, Chris. Why is it so close now?
Why is it so close now? The bottom line is we have, so I believe above everything, if I were to run as a Democrat and some random person runs as a Republican, and people don't know who the hell we are, but they just say Democrat, this is Republican, I believe the numbers would be similar. I think we have a very, very tribal country where they're voting for the color of the jersey. You know, they believe a Republican is going to do X, Y, Z, and they're cool with that. They believe a Democrat is going to do X, Y, Z, and they're cool with that. So people are voting on that versus anything really specific about those candidates. So, you know, I think by and large, that's what's going to happen in every election. You know, so, you know, the election of, I think 1984, we'll never have a situation like that again, where you had Ronald Reagan versus Walter Mondale. Reagan won 49 states. Mondale won just the state he was from, Minnesota. That will never happen again in our lifetime. So it's just a very divided country, and people are going to vote for their jersey. Bottom line. So I believe that's what this is about. You know.
May I interject?
What was that? Christmas or Hanukkah? Who was it? Hold on, Christmas. Go on. Go Christmas.
Yeah. So I wanted to say this about 2016. One thing about that election and bring it home.
Man, women love going back to the past, don't they? Woo!
Let me talk. So back then, you know, people was concerned. No, people didn't care for politicians. Remember that. People was were politicians, and some were willing to give a non-average politician a chance. And Trump had a businessman background, though he had a flawed past with other things. So they were willing to give him a chance. So bring it home to 2020. You know, yes, we've experienced all this stuff with Trump, but there are still people who have that attitude and mindset that they don't want your average politician in office, especially, you know, Biden's been around even though he hasn't been president. So 7 years, yeah. On a businessman that would, you know, have budgetary skills and things like that. They still feel like someone that is not your average politician can govern the nation better with economic different systems. But that's the truth. That's why
people too full. That's the bottom line.
That he cannot do the job.
Yeah, I mean, a government is not a business. You cannot run a government like a business. You have different interests. The purpose of the government isn't to make money. You make different decisions when you're trying to make money versus when you're trying to serve people. You know, that was flawed to begin with. Plus, he's a shitty businessman. He was basically gifted $300 million by his father. How many of you have been gifted $300 million by your father? Raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands.
We're all from the Caribbean here, so nobody ain't got that much money from the Caribbean.
Yeah. So he was getting that $300 million. It's bankrupt casinos. I mean, how you go bankrupt running a casino? You know what I mean? The house always wins. The house always wins, and this man bankrupt a casino. You know what I mean? So, and then from then, he's just basically been living off his name. His name of being. So if you look at where he has made his money, the first set of it was $300 million from his father, right? And then from then, it's I'm the self-made millionaire, and so I'm going to sell my image and my name. And that's how he's made the rest of his money. I'm going to have this apprentice show as me as this, even though he's, I mean, running fake universities, is Trump water, Trump steaks, all that shit didn't work.
Three bankruptcies.
Three bankruptcies. You know what I mean? So that's not I don't think people didn't really look behind those statements. He's not even if he were a successful businessman, that wouldn't matter. But he also happened to not be a successful businessman. He just has money because he
Forbes too, because Forbes thought he was a millionaire. He was not.
Yeah.
Grimy
But
politics versus
let's play
grimy
devil's
business.
advocate. Let's play devil's advocate, right? Now Biden.
Haitians always want to play some devil stuff.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you know us. So devil's advocate, Joe Biden. You know, people say he's a pedophile.
Oh, stop. People would say. See, that's
statement by saying, "Let me play devil's advocate." So
that's some Trump shit right there. People would say.
I want to put
Alright.
that.
So the other thing is, hold on. The other thing is, it's like his voting policy, his voting and the laws that he's implemented in the 80s, right? That destroyed black families, and how many people were jailed from those policies. So to a lot of people,
Hey, a lot of those Negroes were selling rocks, and they needed to be locked up.
Biden still represents that old guard that's been around, that good old boy network, and people, the youth these days. That's why you see the country still so divided. You say, why is it so close right now? I'm giving you reasons of why it's so close. You know.
All right. So that's a good transition.
I'm an advocate.
No.
Sir Chris, before we go on, can I answer that?
Yes.
Sledge?
Yeah.
Do you are aware who is behind Biden, right?
No,
behind him.
Right. Next,
his wife.
You know who his deodorant's gonna be, right?
You talking about Obama?
No. You know who the vice president's gonna be, correct?
Oh, Kamala, yeah.
Right. We have a black woman.
Right.
That's gonna be vice president. So you're asking why it is that race is so close. That's the reason. Here's another problem. Okay.
He has a black woman on the ticket.
Huh?
He has a black woman on the ticket.
Right. So that's one of the issues here. Here's another bigger problem.
A good issue or a bad issue?
Huh? As to why this race is so tight. Let's hypothetically, so we're gonna go back 4 years ago. We didn't want Hillary, which is a white female. Okay?
Women.
America didn't want a female. Yeah? Now we're gonna fast forward the tape. Lord forbid, hopefully Biden.
Don't call it.
Health, here's
Stop. Chat them.
Biden's health don't go downhill. Because if his health goes downhill and he falls out, you know who's gonna be the president?
Cam from St. Anne, Jamaica.
All right, a black woman. So that's
from St. Anne, father from St. Anne. Let's get that in there.
Considering as to why the race is still so tight, because these are realities.
Man, y'all talk a lot.
No, but
I'm joking.
And then you know what the reality is? America would learn a valid lesson. Then, not only did you not want a white woman, now you get a black woman. As a matter of fact, a black Jamaican woman for on the thing too.
Blah. All right. Can I transition now on the chatterbox?
Yes,
all right.
Yes,
so this is a trend. It's a continuation of really the same topic. This is all election stuff. So, black men and Trump. That's the name of the topic, but it's really, all right. So let's talk about what this is about. The support from black men last night. All right, so let's go back to 2008. What happened in 2008? Had a black man on the ticket, Barack Obama. 95% of black men who voted for Obama in 2008. Okay, pretty high number. Fast forward 4 years, he's running for re-election. 87% supported him then, so it's kind of gone down a little bit. Go forward 2016. For Hillary, 82% supported Hillary. And as of last night, these numbers aren't final because numbers still coming in, but 80%. So that trend is obviously going down from 95%, 12 years ago to 80% now. Compared to black women, and I mentioned because there's a discrepancy between the way black men and black women vote. So those same years, and 96% for Obama in 2008, 96% again for Obama in 2012, for Hillary, 94%, and for Biden, 91%. So black women have been supporting the Democratic Party at a higher rate than black men. But the more significant part of that is the dwindling of support for Democratic Party by black men. So, Sledge, you seem to have a lot of opinions in this area, so I'll kick it off to you. Why is that? What do you think best explains that dwindling support? Look, granted, Obama is Obama, right? First black man in history, whatever. So the people got to come out and draw the first time. But why have we seen that number go from 95% now to 80% over the course of 12 years? What's the best explanation for that?
Well, I'm a graduate of Morehouse College, and we are proud. We're a proud group of men. So amongst our circles, there is we have a tendency to tap into our intellectual side. So that being said, the way that the government is set up right now, we have been not well represented. Even when we had Obama in office, a lot of educated black men will say, well, Obama really did not do much for the black male or black people in general, right? And then the opposition to that is, well, the Senate was, heavily Republican, so his hands were tied. He couldn't pass a lot of the initiatives that he wanted, but was the black agenda at the forefront of his presidency? And then now, moving fast forward, Trump gets elected, and then you start seeing stuff like, with HBCUs, he gave them a 10-year deal where they don't have to come begging for money on a yearly basis, right? And then you start seeing things like prison reform being done, although slow, but you still see movement towards that area. So now let's say from a black person in Africa, looking at that just on a statistical basis, right? You have all these presidents before that had not made such concessions specifically to the black community. So now those that are into policies and into facts and numbers, they'll look at that and say, okay, well, although he is doing all this racial divide and he's divisive, there still has been some concessions made, and that he did not have to do, correct? And we had Democratic presidents in office who had not made those concessions. And matter of fact, Bill Clinton, 3 strikes, you're out. That was one of the toughest presidents on the black community, right? So you have all these numbers and all these histories to show, and if you're an intellect, you have to sit down and analyze the numbers and say, wow, okay, so he's a bigot, but this bigot did this specifically for the community. So how do you answer that? So I think that's what you're starting to see, where, if you're from a black family and your cousin Day was in jail, and then due to Trump's reform policy.
Why is it always Day? Every time we use that stereotypical black person, it's always Day. Or Bonquisha. Anyway, go on.
Craig.
Yeah, so that's what you're seeing around the country right now.
All right. So,
and, same with, Hispanics and other voters. Now, I'm not claiming to be a Trump supporter.
Sound like it.
I consider myself independent. I consider myself independent. I vote on policies that are best for me and my family. You know, ultimately this election, although I leaned towards Trump initially at the beginning due to some policies that were favorable to me as a businessman, but ultimately I ended up voting for Biden because when I looked at certain policies that specifically targeted Haiti and just immigration and how that impacted my family, I had to think about, as an immigrant, if those policies were in place at the time I was trying to immigrate to America, then maybe I don't become this successful person in life.
So before I kick it off to, especially for rebuttal, I'm just picking people. I think, and the answer you gave just now, you know, there were a lot of holes in it, and when I say that, I mean, I think there is a gap between what people understand who does what, right? For the HBCU thing, a president has absolutely zero control over budgets. Zero. The power of the purse lies with Congress. So any allocation of budget to X, Y, and Z, that's Congress. Congress can say, you know, we're giving X amount to, you know, this fund, or, you know, this to HBCUs, and actually when it comes to a president, when they make their budgets, they're saying, this is what I would like. These are my priorities. And then Congress said, okay, here's what we're actually going to do. In what Trump outlined that he wanted to do, his funding for HBCUs were actually down. So it was Congress who said, you know what, here's what we're actually going to do. So there's that's one. But because Trump is who he does, he misrepresents everything.
President is who gets to claim the rights.
No. Hold on. So I think there is a misconception there. Also, there's another thing where you talk about, if you look at the funding that, say, Obama versus Trump, the Obama administration and the Congress at the time allocated HBCUs. It's a very, very minuscule difference between both. So it's not like Trump came and gave them the farm and Obama was, holding back. For one, it wasn't his money to give, but it was very little difference between the two. And also, you have to consider the conditions under which both took office, right? Obama took over office in the time of the worst recession since the Great Depression. So all this money wasn't around to just do all these things you want to do. The priority was, we're just trying to not sink the thing into a global depression. So that was the priority. It's easy to go back and say, okay, this person gave, but versus when Trump took over, he took over in the most favorable of economic times, like 60-something consecutive straight months of job growth. Everything was booming when Trump took over. So they took over at different times. So you have to consider that. So it's not like Trump just loves HBCUs so much that he's going to allocate all this money. No, they had different conditions. The First Step Act, right? Again, something of Congress, where the foundation for that bill was actually something that was passed, that Obama championed and passed during his term, and then it progressed to what it ultimately got signed. So I mean, those are a bunch of legislative details. What I'm saying is we have to explore beyond the surface. The surface, everything you said just now, was the surface shit that Trump sells. He's good. I gave all this money to black colleges. I freed all these prisoners. That's what he does.
Chris,
you know what I mean?
Your question was, why do you think the black support from black men has dwindled? So what I've given you is reasons as to why that might have happened. We're not negating the fact that what you're saying is right.
No,
right?
no, no.
I'm giving you reasons of why.
I just think it's important to correct the record, right? To clarify it. You know what I mean? So look, I hear you. I hear you, and I believe that that's sold enough to enough people that it's like everything's that's easy to make a 30-second commercial saying I did this for Black colleges, that I freed 20 Black people from prison, even though Obama did 1,000 commuted the sentences. But those things are easy to sell. So I agree that those things have an impact. But especially, what do you say, as a fellow Black man on the board?
Well, let's make some points that I can talk a little bit about. And one of them, living here, I've experienced is that there are many families, more than you think, that can relate to having people in jail. And over the years, the Democrats have never been very good at letting us out or how they handle Black men going to jail. And people remember that. I'm just
if you commit a crime, you go to jail. What's wrong with that?
You know that the system is set up against Black men. Chris,
Right,
don't give me that. A lot of us are going
No. Okay, I didn't say that, but let's not act like a lot of these people aren't criminals. These aren't all wrongly persecuted people. Come on now, get serious on that. These aren't all a bunch of wrongly prosecuted people.
A $10 bag of weed gets you 10 years, 15 years in jail.
Yeah, so we can have those conversations, but let's not act like these are all innocent people.
Criminal?
Let's again.
You Jamaican, tell me. Eh?
No. Again, let's not act like all these people are innocent.
So I don't think the question is whether the people are innocent or not. It is how long they're being held in jail or what the sentences are based on crime versus white counterparts underneath those presidents. I think that is the argument. It's not a matter of whether the people are innocent or not. It's like Johnny sold a dime bag and got a slap on the wrist and house arrest, and Day did it, and Day's doing 50 years. I think that's the point.
I agree. Sentencing disparities is a problem, definitely.
Bill Clinton crime bills. Joe Biden's laws that he's penned.
I gotta correct some more records. Go on. Finish so I can correct some more.
Has come together collectively to now influence a lot of Black men saying, hey, my dad has been in jail for 30 years because of Democratic Party.
All right. So again, here, this is important to have this conversation because these are all talking points I hear all the time. But it's important, again, to correct the record. All right, so let's rewind back to the 1980s, right? The 1980s, in the midst of the crack epidemic, right? It was a terrible time. I had a whole bunch of friends who were, selling rocks, getting killed, going to jail, whatever, when they were kids. And that's just my little world. But all throughout the community, gang violence because, the Reagan crack epidemic, they get all this crack on the streets and what have you. And it was terrorizing the community. And so at that time, so at that time, the community, the Black community was screaming for action. So you had Black leaders in communities, pastors, community leaders, begging for Congress to do something because you had all these fiends, these addicts, you had all this gang violence, you had these body bags all over the place, screaming for action to do something about this epidemic. And so it is out of that environment where the crime bill was passed. And so when that crime bill was passed, people can't put it all on Joe Biden now. There were a ton of Black people who supported that. There were Democrats and Republicans, Black community leaders, Black congressmen, who supported this because they wanted action to stop this cancer in the community. So in hindsight, you can look back and say, you know what?
Who
These
put the
things
drugs
weren't
in the
done right.
community?
Well on, man. Well on now. So we can look back and say these things weren't done right, and we need to remedy it in this way. But so when when we, like you said, hindsight is 2020, and it gives you the clarity of looking at the mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have worded that way because it had this impact. You have to have those conversations. You have to be able to look at the mistakes that were made in things that you did and say we should change it in this way. That's a productive conversation. But to say that this was some sinister agenda to just lock up Black people is not accurate, because again, Black community leaders were begging for this. I remember that time.
We think about it like that because our first thought was to lock them up. Just like how Trump is saying. One is saying right now, lock them up. We had very smart people thinking about reasons to fix the problem and resolutions to the problem. Locking up people
Don't do that
are
no more.
sick because it's a disease. Being on drugs is a disease. It's not really criminal, it's a disease.
Yeah.
And they should be thinking about more social lines of fixing the problem versus criminal lines of fixing the problem.
Sure,
I blame our Black leaders too for the problem.
Yeah.
Because you should have thinking about trying to heal these people versus just removing them from society.
That's where racism comes in.
Absolutely.
That's because look how they're dealing with the OxyContin thing now. No, they need treatments. That now they think, let's not just lock it up and throw away the key. And because who is hooked on those? So it's primarily white people. So that's where race. So yes, of course, there's racism involved here. So yeah, these things have to be dealt with. But let's be honest and clear the record. Leslie, Christmas look like you have things to say.
Sure, I had so much. I got to see where I was leaving that from. But yeah, so I agree with the vote was shifted with Black men because of a lot of people are looking at the policies, and the whole thing is people are voting for a leader. Leaders aren't perfect. They want people to lead them. So it's not about a personality. It's not about a party. It's about the policies, the procedures, the systems, and the administration that this leader will put in place. So the vote was swayed because of that. And then look at your boy Trump. He pardoned some of these.
That's your boy. That's Legends boy.
He pardoned some of these very people.
Speak for yourself.
Go back on mute.
Speak for yourself, Chris.
Go back on mute.
And they were innocent. So, and a lot of people are looking at how many people did Obama pardon versus Trump.
1,000 versus 20, to be honest, to be clear.
Hey, her and Trump partners because of that. So, you have a lot of people because, I'm a teacher too, and I see the kids who, have talked about their parent being locked up for, so long for things that they didn't do. Whether that's true or not, you don't know, but you do see the pain in the families. And there's a lot of pain in a lot of these minority communities because of bad cops, bad systems, bad policies, etc. It's a fact. So
stop selling them rocks.
Black men and minorities were swayed with that. Then you have other topics and other issues. You've got the abortion issue. If you think about it, abortion, if you look at the history, and that's the problem with a lot of our people. We don't go deep. So if you look at the history of abortion, it was based on racism and eugenics to eliminate the Black man out of America. So look it up, Margaret Sanger, because I did.
Yeah, but look at, all right, so here we go. But so I'm definitely going to turn this into an abortion discussion. But
hey, Chris was dropping knowledge, man. I've
heard that before. But look here.
But a lot of people
get an abortion.
You heard it, but some people haven't.
No, she said it already. But who is forcing anybody to get an abortion? Anyway, We can't have it.
You can go up to the now, and it used to be like a few weeks, and then it was the 5th month. Now you can abort that baby all up to the 9th month.
Well.
So
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Let me.
Is that legal?
Let me.
Yeah, that's not all completely accurate. It's not.
I want you to dig and come back.
I know. I'm familiar with this conversation. I've had this.
I wanted to
argument
comment.
before.
So based off Leslie said, you made a quick comment saying who's forcing anybody to make an abortion. There's so many layers to these things. Why would it be appealing? You got to think about it. Why would it be more appealing for the Black community to go get abortions? Well, you have to think about all the systematic oppression and things we have. We can't afford to take care of these children because of all of the things that may be put in place where they're not able to financially do that. So having an abortion may be more ideal to that young mother in the hood who can't get X, Y, and Z for herself than trying to raise their kid on their own. So there's so many more layers to it than to just say who's forcing you to get an abortion. It could be the situation due to certain laws and policies and things that were put in place to hold that particular demographic down. So there's so many different layers to that.
I agree with that.
The forced, and it wasn't me. I was talking about abortion.
No, that wasn't your comment. It was Chris's. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say it wasn't your comment. I was agreeing.
No. But yeah. So that yes.
Intent. Look at the original intent. Look up Margaret Sanger.
No. Look here. Go ahead.
And buckle that with racism. Buckle that with why some of the people have swayed their vote because of the systems, the policies, the procedures, and administration that they want to see happen.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I don't subscribe to that belief at all. I'm familiar with the abortionists here to get rid of Black people. I don't subscribe to it. I believe no. It's an opinion.
No,
that's your no. All right. So I would have to argue that, but I'm going to settle that here. But there are many layers to it. There are economics associated with that. There is, overall social dysfunction. There are many layers to it. So I don't, so you can't put, a Planned Parenthood center in the hood someplace. That doesn't mean that we're here to eliminate Black kids. I don't subscribe to that. But again, I'm not really going to have an abortion discussion.
Do not research and dig deep enough to the history. You got to go way back, even before he was born, to find the original intent, to see why some of the systems and policies started back then and where they are today and how it affects us now. Things evolve. Things evolve in worse sense.
I've read many opinion pieces about this. I just don't agree with it. I don't.
You don't have to, but the truth is in the history.
How about redlining, Chris? Do you agree? Do you think that is still a factor?
Do I believe redlining? Of course it is. I mean that's of course redlining is that's historic and it's current, of course. Yeah, that's not really debatable. How do we reverse this trend? The dwindling support amongst Black men and the Democratic Party from 95% down to 80%. Is that a problem? For Black people, not for the Democratic Party. Is that a problem? And if how do we reverse this trend?
Well,
or is it necessary?
I definitely think it's a problem, but my views is probably going to be a little bit abstract from you guys. I don't think, especially with the incarceration story that we had a moment ago, I really don't think it's a democratic. I don't care what the laws are. I don't care. I mean, it's not a Democratic or Republican issue, okay? Because the system is designed to keep Black people down. The system is designed, it doesn't matter who's in power. The system is designed to make sure that we're always poor. The system is designed to make sure that we have more single mothers. So this is not a Democratic or Republican problem. So that is a very poor excuse. I think we gotta get back to the basics of things, okay? Unfortunately, America is just not for us. We just gotta keep fighting as Black people to get where we need to be. It's not a Republican or a Democratic issue. Okay? The system is designed to make sure that Black people don't get to where they need to be. So I don't believe in that excuse.
Yeah, so I mean, I think basically, once you have power, it is very difficult to relinquish power. And so if you have power over, if you know, you're in control, you're running things in all sorts of different ways, you're going to put all these bullshit policies like redlining in place to make sure that we have our piece of the pie and they stay within their place. So we can trace that in all sorts, you know, in education, fund how schools are funded, and to where businesses get investment from all across the board. It's basically, we stole power from the beginning when we got here, and ever since then, everything that we've done is to maintain this white patriarchal system. That's what it is. You know, it's not necessarily something against Black people. It's like, we white men have control of this place from jump, and anybody else who is trying to come and take a piece of our pie, we have to put these things in place so that they stay in their lane. So, in going to politics now, that explains the entire rise of Donald Trump. There would not be a Donald Trump had there not been a Barack Obama as president. You had a Black man rise to become president. Even though white people still run everything in the whole freaking country, that was enough for him, Trump. You know, he started on the shit from Obama's president, where he wasn't born here. I need to see his school record, all this shit. He doesn't deserve to be there. He is, I heard about his, they put him on in his Harvard. I've talked to people at Harvard, and he doesn't deserve to be there. So this is that he's been saying this stuff from 2012, right? That he does not deserve to be there, and so his entire appeal is white grievance. That's what it is. And all the people he appeals to, not all, but his core base, we're going to load up our trucks and run buses off the road people. Those are people who he has gotten to believe Black people, brown people, immigrants are trying to take what is rightfully yours as a white man. And so anything that, so I am your savior to keep these Black, brown, immigrant people in their place. So look to me as your white savior. That explains the entire rise of Donald Trump. That explains his base. That's why, he is very popular amongst the white, non-college educated people, because these are people who have seen the economy pass them by. They can't just get by on being a white man anymore when those factories are closing and they don't have the opportunities that they used to have. So here I am as your savior. You know what I mean? So that's where we live. So the sooner we realize that, the better. So this has been a revealing 8 years or 12 years, I would say. Our next move for this new administration, what are we looking for? And how do we get it? So, started off with you, Sledge. What is the number one thing that you want out of this new administration? You're going to have your wish list.
Whether it's Trump or Biden, right? Just in general.
For the next 4 years.
What I would like to see, first and foremost, is a system put in place to where more minorities are put in position to where they have access, same financial access to grow their businesses. I would like to see more equality in pay for Black men and Black women, and if you want to take a step further, just women in general, right? Because I have daughters that I'm raising. I also would like to see police reform, and those are things that can, in the way that Black men is being policed in this country. So those are things within the first 90 days I feel like can be addressed. That's what I would like to see. I know Doc had made a statement. She said it doesn't matter who's in power, the system is racist, and it's built against us. And I believe that to be so. So if that's the case, whoever does get in power, I would like to see them put us at an equal. I'm not telling them to give us favoritism. I'm not telling them to give us a handout. And that's the misconception that a lot of people have about those that, are Democrats or, believe in a fair system. They feel like we are all looking for handouts. No, we're not looking for handouts. We're looking for what is rightfully ours as a citizen of the United States. Same treatment a white man gets, we are entitled to that same treatment because we put into the system just as much as they done, maybe more.
I want Black privilege. That's what I want.
You want Black privilege. I just want the privilege that the Constitution deemed me to have as a man. Before they said I wasn't even a man, so now they finally decided to recognize us as such, so that's what I would like to see, just equality across the lines, so that my children, when they get of age, when they present themselves at a bank, they are given the same respect as a white man coming to get a loan and not be looked at as a beggar. So that's what I'd like to see in the first 90 days.
Doc, what's your number one thing that you want? I said one, but Sledge said 5 because Sledge talks about what he does.
I speak for the people. The voice of the people. Go ahead.
The voices of the peoples.
What would I love to see in a perfect world?
What's your number one priority item that you want to see?
A better healthcare system. It would be lovely if we all, as supposedly first world country, we're supposed to have access to free healthcare. The healthcare system is horrible.
Spoken like a medical professional.
Exactly. No, but I agree. I agree. It can be done. So that's another thing where, the profit motive is great. We're all capitalists here, but it doesn't belong in everything. All right. Anyway, that's a separate conversation. So you want a better healthcare system. Mm-hmm. Christmas. What's your top item? Just one.
I have several. So I want to see.
Come on, Sledge.
So I want to see some type of debt relief for, your average family and, because it's so much bad systems with the debt, right?
What kind of debt we're talking? We're talking school loans or just
multifaceted, okay? Then you got the payday loans, this, that. Then education. I want to see a lot of funding for education, even for people that's already in the workplace that may need to restructure their careers or go into another avenue. Also, business, more funding for minorities to level the playing field. And lastly, with police,
you got a whole long list.
Accountability with just the police, but even Congress people and senators. We need better accountability. They need to answer and be accountable. That's it.
That's it? Just those 7? Okay, gotcha.
Well, you can't count tonight, huh?
Rima, what's your one or whoever? Hey, everybody else been breaking the rules.
Well,
your priority item.
Been about 30 things said, so actually what was important to me was already said. But my biggest thing, especially what I was listening to during the debates and everything, is how they plan to address, the things put in place in terms of the systematic oppression and police reform. I'm a mother of a young Black boy. That's the thing that keeps me up at night, especially. And of course, education as well. It's so expensive. If you don't come from a family with a trust fund, or if you don't throw a football, just to pay for college.
Start working on his jump shots.
So those are the things that are important to me as a mother of 3 young children.
Especially your video gone. You there?
Yes, I'm still here. Hold on.
All right. It's your turn.
Okay, all right. I want. Let me tell you what I want.
Blackout in Dubai.
Yeah.
All right.
On a blackout thing. Yeah, man. I want Wani to leave my check signed at the door on your way out. Right? No, I'm just joking. I want to see the next leader. Seriously now. Putting plans in place to bring the country get together so we can help and repair and fix and solve this coronavirus problem. We need everybody on one page. We need everybody that is thinking about the other person, and we need everybody to cooperate so we can get this virus out of here. So in short, I want the next leader to be able to show some sign that he's willing to bring the country together so we can work together to fix this coronavirus problem.
Those are all very good points. I won't add to that. I kind of co-sign all of that. The thing that and this is not really something we can't really answer on the show here, and we have to understand like how these things get accomplished. So everything that Willie set out right now, there are going to be major roadblocks to getting it done. And we have to understand that. So, for example, let me tell you what's going to happen now. One of the good things that came out of, obviously the best thing that came out of last night is it looks like Biden is going to win and get Trump out of the White House. The not good thing about last night is that it looks like the Senate is going to remain within Republican hands. So what does that mean? It means they're going to cock block him at every step, and you're not going to let him do a thing. And that is by strategy. So, and just going back into recent history, in 2008, with the big exuberance of Obama getting elected, the first Black president, everybody happy, people talking about the Republicans may not win anything again. Democrats had 60 seats in the Senate, big, advantages in the House. And so, literally, I saw a documentary on this the other day. The night of Obama's inauguration, what happened? You had Mitch McConnell and a bunch of Republican leaders who got together and said, what we're going to do, we're going to be a fly in the ointment. We're going to block every single thing that he does. Again, it's 2008. We're in the middle of the biggest recession since the Great Depression. All the things that needed to get done to get the country going again, they just said, nope, not doing it. We don't care. We're just not going to help lift a finger. And so what's going to happen is going to frustrate the hell out of people. And so all those people who are so excited about Obama, we're going to do this, and that, because he didn't have the support of enough people in the Senate, he couldn't get anything done. So then what happened? You get to 2010, the midterm elections, and people were pissed off. They didn't get their 40 acres and a mule. They didn't get all this stuff within those 2 years. So they didn't show up to vote in 2010. Obama lost the House. And basically from then on, for the next 6 years, he got nothing done legislatively. So this is what's going to happen now. Republicans, as pissed off as they are that their president may not be in power anymore, they are going to obstruct every single thing. And so I think it's for one, so all the things we talked about with healthcare and all this stuff, it's not going to happen with the Republican Senate. So we can want it, but and so what ends up happening is we say, okay, well, Biden didn't get that done. You know what I mean? So we have to be aware of that and realize, you know, kind of, you know, what the where the obstacles are.
Can you name me a president that was that did not have the majority in the Senate, but that was still able to accomplish and bring people together on both sides of the aisle? Can you name me one of the last presidents that was able to do that?
Johnson.
So I'll say, Bill Clinton. I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind. He got a whole lot done working with Republicans. With that said, I believe anything can be accomplished once there is motivation from both sides to get it accomplished. No, hold on. So, a lot has changed since, you know, Clinton was president back in the 90s, and a big part of it is the media landscape, right? And so, with that said, that was a time where we kind of could all agree on the same set of facts. Now you can have a completely different set of facts from somebody else. So it's more difficult to do it now. So and our political climate is a lot more polarized now, where, you know, back then Democrats and Republicans, they would go hang out together on the weekends or whatever. That shit don't happen anymore. You know, so because the Congress is extremely divided. They have their little gerrymander districts where they don't need to work with anybody from the other side, because they've carved out who they want their voters to be. So they're only speaking to their supporters, so they don't have to compromise. You know, so the landscape is just a lot more difficult in order to compromise. Yes, it happened in the past. Things have just changed. So we'll see. But, you know, that is the obstacle that we face. You know, just a very fractured, divided
theory on that
country. What's your theory, Mr. Haitian?
So, if we go back even on the simplest of basis in our Caribbean community, there's so many things and so many people that are divided amongst each other. This person don't like that person. This group is competing with that. And so many things, right, that is going wrong within just this Houston Caribbean community.
Not familiar with it.
I feel like with the right understanding and right spirit, you have to understand that people are different, and you have to meet them where they are in their difference. Right now, what we see in this country is damn near 50-50 down the line split. Biden is not winning by a landslide. He is barely winning this election. Although I feel like he is going to win it, he's barely doing it. So that means that there has to be, whoever the leader is, has to make concessions for the other side, because their voice matters too. So if the leader that's in office comes at it with the perspective of, okay, I'm a Democrat, but you know what? 50% of the country didn't agree with Democratic policies. Although I'm a Democratic or Republican president, I have to sit down with the other side and see what it is that their base wants, right?
Trump won't do that. I'm gonna tell you that.
There has to be leadership in place that's able to do that. I feel that Biden has the potential to be able to do that, because he is part of the old guard. He was part of them when they used to all drink together and go out golfing and chasing women. They were all doing that together, right? So a lot of them are still there as the good old boy network. So there's a potential for him to be able to do that. Now, if Trump becomes president, what Trump has to realize is
Trump
that
don't give up.
I know he doesn't, but what he does have to realize, right, if he wants to accomplish things that he wants to accomplish, is that there's people out there that does not like his policies or like what he's about. There has to be concessions from the Republican side as well to address that for the country. Will that happen? Most likely not, because Trump really don't give a fuck about a lot of shit, you know, but that is the mindset that has to be for this country to advance and move forward. Can it be done? Yes. Will it be done? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. And you're 100% right in that Biden comes from that era. He comes from that era where they used to hang out and drink together. You know, one of his best friends was John McCain, right? Polar opposites, you know, politically, but that was his boy. They were good friends.
I mean, look at John Lewis passing all the voting rights. He was able to go across the aisle and bring people over for a good cause. It's like people have to remember what it is that makes us similar. We have to remember what it is that makes us all Caribbean, right? Right.
So, you know, I mean, and everything that Biden has been, I'll say what's going to get Biden into trouble, assuming that he wins, yes. And he's been talking, watching his stump speeches. You know, he said, I'm running as a Democrat, but I will be an American president. I'll be your president if you voted for me or if you didn't vote for me. He says that all the time. So where he's going to get in trouble, that outreach is going to get them in trouble with Democrats because they gave Obama hell for that. So Obama, again, he came in and I'm sure he learned as he went along. He figured that because he had so much support that they would want to work with him. And so he tried to extend his olive branch to reach out across the aisle to try and work with them.
Obama was a black man, though.
But same political environment. Same political environment. So what happened is that's a lot of the reason why people didn't show up in 2010. It was like he's trying too much to be like them. So if he tried, because we've seen how cutthroat these Republicans are, who they really don't care about any truth. They don't care about what they said yesterday. This is today, and I believe something else today. They don't care. And so if he tries to reach out and work with them too much, it's going to get him in trouble with Democrats. So he's going to have to. That's a line he's going to have to toe.
Is that the Senate is going to be controlled by Republicans? So in his presidency, he has no choice but to reach out to them.
Sure. Yeah. He has to reach out to them. But if it gets to the point where it seems like he's making too many concessions for the right, it's going to get him in trouble. Just watch. We'll see. All right. Last subject. Caribbean people. We're all Caribbean people here. We have 3 people from the Caribbean's best island, and then we have a Haitian and a Luke and a Trinity. I had to get that in
Watch
there.
Watch your mouth when you come to the Haitian, Chris. Watch your mouth, boy.
All right. So this is something that we're in our WhatsApp group of chatting about. Saying how I lived here I was eligible to become a citizen, many years before I actually did it. So after Bush won in 2000, I was eligible to become a citizen, but I wasn't. And so after Bush won, I was talking to my mother, and she was like, well, you're not going to move back to Jamaica anytime soon, and we don't know how things are going to change with Bush regarding immigration. And so your status as a permanent resident, green card holder, is not so sure. So if you plan on staying in this country, you want to at least go and get the citizenship. So at that time, I was, I'm like, you know what? I felt like if I go and I swear my allegiance to the United States, that I'm turning my back on Jamaica, right? And that mattered to me because I can't even remember the swearing in ceremony, where, you know, I literally have my fingers crossed.
You were actually trying to remember that?
Don't say that too loud, Chris. They might come and get you and snatch it away, boy. Don't say it too loud.
So there's this. So I don't know what, you know, numbers are or what have you, but I believe there are a lot of Caribbean people because look, we as Caribbean people, we love our home countries. You have people. So when I'm just thinking up to the swearing-in ceremony, there were some people there who were so excited to become United States citizens. I wasn't that. You know, because you have a lot of people who they have horrible memories from where they come from, and America opened up their arms to them. I don't have that experience. You know what I mean? So if I were in their condition, I could see becoming real excited to become an American citizen. But I wasn't that, so I was like, you know, I'm living here, so I might as well do it. But I didn't have the experience that I didn't come from the same place that they came. So, you know, so I think they're probably, and so when I posted that message on the WhatsApp, a few other people chimed in who had similar experiences where either them or their parents have lived there for a while, were eligible, but didn't do it for similar reasons. They didn't want to, quote unquote, turn their back on their Caribbean nation. So with that said, there's probably many hundreds of thousands or whatever Caribbean people here under similar circumstances who feel, you know, I'm just living here, but I'm not really an American, so I'm not really good to get, you know, participate in this process. So how do we get that point across to Caribbean people that to get politically active, engaged in this country in which you live and why it is important? Doc, kick it off with you. How do we get that message across to them?
You kind of hit me off guard.
You want me to come back to you?
I mean, no. Even though, I mean, you know, the whole coronavirus kind of shut us down this year. You know, over the past years, we've always had all type of, you know, Caribbean related stuff. So in the midst of, you know, us fellowshipping and coming together, you know, I think that's an ideal time to continue, you know, to reiterate that, you know, it's important because you live here, you're benefiting from these things. And in order to improve your life, it's important that you get these things done so that, you know, hopefully our lives can get a little bit better. So, you know, hanging out at the park is not just all about fun and play, but, you know, I think those venues are, you know, good places to, you know, encourage and reiterate, you know, why it's important.
Yep. Sledge, I know you always got some shit to say.
Let me put my hat backwards for you. So I can bring the gangster out. Listen, I feel like if you pay attention to the political campaigns and when they're hitting the campaigns trail, what do they always hit? As far as the Caribbean community goes, they always end up in Little Haiti, in Miami, and they're going to New York. The Haitian community, for the most part, has been an active participant in politics. That's why they specifically put that on their campaign trails to hit. As far as collectively,
they didn't come through in Florida. Get your people, man.
As far as collectively, I know. As far as collectively, this is my first year voting. I know that comes to a surprise to a lot of people because I have a very active voice.
Seems about right.
Community, but my story is interesting. I became a citizen not too long ago. For the longest, I was a green card holder and had no interest in becoming a citizen because I am such a patriotic Haitian man. Very proud of where I'm from, and even when I became a citizen officially, I was like, man, you know, I know I had children here, you know, and I had family that would benefit from me becoming a citizen. So it was almost reluctantly to do it. Yep. And even in the swearing in, you know, hopefully this doesn't come back for me. Even in the swearing in, I'm like, in my gut, it was just bubbling. You know, a lot of people walk out of there so happy and excited, like, oh, you know, finally an American citizen. Whereas I was always educated. I always had a good job, you know, that was afforded to me by America. So I was very thankful and grateful for that. So don't get it wrong, you know, but the switch for me was that I realized that if I'm going to be living here, I had to be a good example as far as what a good civic person should be. You know, how can I call myself a leader and telling people this is what they should do and how they should get engaged, you know, within their community, and I myself was not living up to that? How can I tell my kids that you have to be good citizens within the society, and I myself did not take the means to make sure that I can participate to make their future a little better when I could have done something about it, you know? So that was the switch for me. And I think a lot of people within our community, they have no interest because they feel like it doesn't directly affect them unless it's about immigration. You know, that's the only time you hear Caribbean people raising, you know, hell and wanting to say something about it when the N1 visa is about to expire and they're not going to renew it. Outside of that, we're pretty quiet. We just sit back. But I feel with the new age of us, because a lot of us are second generation, first generation. Some people, I know a lot of Caribbeans here, even especially the younger ones, were not born back home. They're products of their parents migrating here from the 70s and 80s, right? Even I'm one of 9 children. I'm the last person that was born in Haiti. Me and my sister, the rest of my siblings were born in America. So they, per se, if my parents didn't raise us in a Haitian household, you know, and with that mindset, they would have no remnants of being Haitian. They would, because they're being raised here. You know, I speak proper English now because my mother said that, you know, you don't want them to discriminate against you, so you have to assimilate and speak proper English. Check your diction. You know, but of course I speak the language fluently, read and write it, and speak French and Creole, but still I had to assimilate to the American society because that's where I was now. You know, so I have a very good understanding of what it will take to get the community to the next step. And yes, we do have to get engaged, and it's going to take people like you and I, Chris, and everybody else here, Doc, and, you know, and Simple, right? What's the special. You know, Karima and Leslie.
We can't call him Simple.
You know, to advance our community, and these conversations is very healthy because, you know, not too long ago, we didn't have a platform that gave us the ability to dialogue with one another about this. Recently, we were able to galvanize people within the community to register them to vote. And so now you had youngsters within the community that we've seen grow, like Fire Kai, you know, that Fire Ty, you know, Miss Ellen's boy from Island Spice, voted for the first time as he turned, you know, 21 and was eligible to vote. You know, so it's just really important what it is that we're doing and to stay on the course. And I feel like in due time, we'll be able to galvanize and we'll have an active voice, you know, to where now politicians will make Houston Caribbean community one of their stomping grounds because we are a collective unit moving together. So that's what I foresee.
Yep. Well said. Christmas, you want to say something on that, or anybody else?
Yeah, it's important that we get active and our voice be heard, because one thing about it with the citizenship and changing over, I mean, I've had family members that felt like, you know, they was selling their soul, be selling their country away, but you, in order to be more involved, more active, and have more extended opportunities, with certain things, especially if you want to get involved in politics or different offices in education or whatever, sometimes it's important to make that jump. So it can be beneficial, but you always remember your roots, and you always are the wonderful organizations like Houston Carrion Professionals Organizations and other, organizations highlight, your culture and so forth, and you keep culture alive. You pass that legacy down, regardless of where you're from. You spread it where you're at. And I'm done.
We're here now.
Yeah, the citizenship thing, it's because I remember after my swearing-in ceremony, I just I still felt like I turned my back on Jamaica. So I called my sister. I was talking to her, and she said that she felt this. She had done it years before, and she said as soon as she left the swearing-in ceremony and she walked outside, what did she see? But an Air Jamaica plane fly right by. And she was like, oh, geez. But, as kind of what we've all said, you get to that place where, here you kind of living, you go to school, you're working, and your family is good. And I saw your whole perspective. But when you start thinking beyond that, start thinking about your kids, you start thinking about being a participant in the system in which you live. For example, being able to serve on juries. I believe they picked that from people who are registered voters, right? So I served on a jury for the first time, a few years ago, where, we lock up that woman for stabbing her husband. But, that was,
that was you?
Sometimes. where just something like that, being able to sit in a court case and listen to it from beginning to end and see the way that things are presented as a juror was an invaluable experience. And it's clear to see the flaws in the system and how important it is for us to put ourselves in that pool of people that they will call on to be jurors. We can't complain about the criminal justice system or what have you, but if we're skipping out on jury duty and what have you, then we get what we get. So if we live here, I want to participate fully in this country. It's more than just working and making money. We have to be full participants in it. So Caribbean people, if you're nobody can take that from you. You're going to be Caribbean. That's your culture. But you live here and you want to be an active participant in this country in which you live, take that step, register to, get on the path to become a citizen if you are eligible. It's very important for your future and for all of our future. So
it's very important for the community to know as well is that we have resources for you. If you're not familiar with the process or you're scared to step up and say, hey, I'm undocumented, because there's a real fear out there amongst us as well to participate because of the fear that, they're looked too much into our families that are undocumented. We don't want ICE coming knocking at our door. So let's be very mindful about that issue as well. It's very real, and we're dealing with that. I remember some years back, not even too long ago, my sister, she was going for a government position to work overseas at the embassy, and they had to dig into the family. You know what I mean? So it's like, so we had to have a sit down. Hey, sis, do you really want to do this? You know what I mean? How bad do you want this post? You don't want, auntie in New York to be summoned, So it's those kind of fears that we have, and I like to share from a place of realness so that people know that we are like them, what I mean? But we were still able to find a way to be part of the system and be productive and make a difference, and that's all you got to do. There's ways to do it, and we're here to support that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and that is a very, very legitimate fear amongst a lot of our people, because we may be good, legally, but we all know some people who ain't, and that fear is legitimate. So but it's important. So the show is normally an hour, but since Sledge is on, he talks a lot, so now it's an hour and almost 2 hours. So with this final segment, we have a last segment.
At least 5 to 10 minutes to pose the question.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta put my slant out there. Anyway,
teasing with you, Chris.
So, with final thoughts, or just say like one sentence. It can be about whatever. It could be promoting something. It could be, selling soap. It could be a Bible scripture. Some words of wisdom that you want to leave the people with. We'll start with our guests. From my screen, I'm seeing Christmas first. Christmas, give us some words of wisdom.
I'll write off my grandmother's word that she always would share with us, rest her soul. Walk with the wise. Always walk with wisdom. And part of that, I want to piggyback off the research. Make sure you dig deep, dig beyond the surface, get a big shovel and research before you just go on hearsay and run all around with these political whatevers. Make sure you know where the history and the real roots of the laws, policies, procedures come from before you take certain actions.
Amen.
Amen.
That was the Trinidad delegation. Now we go to the Lucian delegation.
Alrighty. So my parting words will be, for our community out here, education. You need to educate yourself about politics, policies, everything that's going on, even from what Sledge was saying, what ways you need to get your citizenship if you don't. I think there's just a lack of education. I think a lot of our community feel who can vote if they just go ahead and vote for their presidency, they did their due diligence. There's a lot of things on a local level that can be done. So you need to educate yourself about what's happening around you because, like you said, at the end of the day, you were able to do jury duty in order to be a part of that panel, because if something happens to one of our community, they have the ability to go ahead and be our judge and jury. So we need to be a part of that. We need to get our people in places where we can look at our best invested interest as well. We need to support our own locally. Honestly, a lot of the reasons why a lot of our initiatives are not in politics is because there's no money. Money is what they respect. True. We have no money to offer them to tell them this is what we want. So until we build that, we're always going to have to settle for, we'll try to work on police reform. We're not going to see anything real things that are going to end systematic oppression for Black people. So we have to become more unified on that. And of course, we need to build generational wealth for our kids. Stop spending your money on X, Y, and Z. Invest in your children. Start a fund or something. We need to build generational wealth. That we need to invest in the future. So other than that, that's all I have to say. Our organization, as well as other organizations, are here for the community. We have resources, a vast network.
And what is your organization, ma'am?
Houston Caribbean Professionals Association.
And how do we find out more information about that organization?
Well, you can visit us on our website at www.hcpa.org. You can find us on Facebook, and you can also find us on IG as well. And just know this organization has a power of network. Whatever question you have, we don't got it at our disposal. We will do everything we can to find it for you. And I'm done.
Drop the mic, Rima. Drop the mic. Sledge, you have to follow that mic dropping.
Yeah, that was pretty well done. What I would like to say is that in all the differences, we still have to find commonality. The human aspect, we have a common thread, and finding that we can find a place where we can work with one another. You might not like Sledge and everything Sledge says, but as long as we know that we're working towards the common good, we can set those differences aside for the advancement of our people, of our community. I want everybody to know that I sincerely, wholeheartedly love each and every one of you all, from my team, from those that I haven't worked with before. I look forward to working with you all and doing great things within the community and beyond. there's big things ahead for us to come. So please stay connected, you know. And one important thing is that we are here to serve. You know, we have a lot of big personalities, and some of us come with egos, but when we get together, all that is set aside for the advancement of the community and to serve. So I like to thank my team, you know, that's here with me now. You as well, Chris, that's on board with us. And the other guests on the panel that I've met for the first time, I think they speak to who we are as a people. You know, we're so very different, but as you can see, we can sit down and have a good conversation and find some common grounds. That's all it's about. So thank you for the time.
So, Doc, as we get to the Jamaican part of the final thought. So tune in, everybody. Listen up. Here comes the wisdom.
All right, so guys, it's been a long haul for us Black and brown people. I hate to beat on that, but you know, that's just the reality. And you know, especially this year, it's been very, very, very trying for us. So there are some gems that I really want us to, you know, take and move forward with. You know, we have to remember to find value in ourselves, right? And also our own people. We also have to understand that we are the only ones that can build and lift up our own people. Don't expect for anybody else to do it for us, because, you know, history keeps on speaking over and over for itself, okay? So another thing, we shouldn't let society define who we are. We shouldn't let the media define who we are, right? We should really ask ourselves, who are we as Black and brown people? Just remember, we are overcomers, okay? We are the true definition of strength, right? We're perseverers. And with all of these things said, we should just accept nothing less than that, okay? So come on, Black people, we're coming from far. Let's just keep on pushing.
Amen.
Okay? And I really agree with Badish, where she says that, you know, we have to learn to support our own, because nobody else is going to do it for us. And, you know, I'm sure if we do a statistics, a lot of the Black-owned businesses are not necessarily supported by our own. You know, we've got to be mindful what we say about business owners and even professionals who are business owners, because oftentimes we start off and all we start off with is just, you know, our word. That's all we have. We have nothing else. And so, you know, because I've seen it, you know, where people will try to tarnish somebody's reputation. It's you know, it's hard just coming from nothing, trying to build something, and you know, you tear it down. So we just need to be mindful, and we have to understand that if you push me, I eventually will pull you. Don't worry about, oh my God, you know, this person going to be on the hill. You have to understand that in order for me to be able to assist you, sometimes you have to give me that push so that I can in turn, you know, pull you. The other thing is boycott some of those, you know, manufacturers, some of these designers that just continue to bash and disrespect us. Okay, we just don't understand our power as a group of people. A lot of these brand name stuff, we're the ones that supporting it. They disrespect, you boycott them. Let's see how they're going to do this. Redirect your funds back into your own community. That's how the Jewish people have done it for years, kept it in the circle, and all of the supporters are not needing anything. Okay, so we need to get on that train and, you know, just start supporting your own. We're the only ones that can do this for us. Don't expect for anybody else to do it.
Hallelujah.
Okay, we just need to know who we are and just keep moving.
Smash it.
Yeah.
From Dubai. What's the weather like in Dubai today?
Sunny. Yo, well, what me have to say is, yo, Wani, you all out the door. I'll help you pack, man. I'll help you pack. I'll call the Uber if I have to. But on a more serious note, though, as a country, you know, we need to come together, and we need to follow the protocols. We need to wear a mask, and let us beat this coronavirus, man. I'm ready for First Friday to start back, man.
Oh, shit.
I'm ready to go back
Me
to
too.
my country and lay on the beach.
Yeah.
So people, just let us be conscious of what we're doing. Let us be thoughtful about other people. Wear your mask. We beat Corona and everything, Chris.
Yeah, man. This was a very, I was joking with y'all, but it's a good spirited discussion over now 2 hours. And we have representatives from the Caribbean, Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Lucia, and Haiti, talking about these important issues. And just to piggyback on a few things that were said, what Karima said about supporting our businesses, very important. Sledge mentioned something earlier about, they got to Little Haiti when they got to, Miami, because they know the power within our community. Same thing here in Houston. We need to present ourselves as a community that you need to come and talk to. So that's up to us. What they respect more than anything, they respect our spending power and they respect our votes, right? So the more active we are in building up our businesses and building a strong economic base, as well as a strong voting base, where we're going to have to go and see the Caribbean community in Houston because they are impacting things in these ways. So it is up to us to really elevate our community in that way. So that's very important. We can't talk about all the initiatives that we want for the Caribbean community here locally as well as globally, but it all starts by really capitalize on the power that we have within our hands, and we have to utilize it. So that's the main point I wanted to make just now. Obviously, the election, that was the main topic here. And regardless of what happens in the next day or two, this country has a lot of challenges going forward. We live in a very fractured country, and we're going to have to find a way to work together to get beyond these challenges, like COVID, like economic challenges and what have you. So, let's all be ready to think of how we can add value to the next steps that we need to take. Strip away the Democrat, Republican labels or what have you. Think about what you can do as an individual to help elevate, your family, your community, and this country to what you desire for it to become. So everybody can answer that in their own mind, and let's, take this power back. So everyone, thank you for those who are still with us after 2 hours of sledge talking. Thank you for tuning in. JustReasoning.com is where you can see this episode and all the past episodes. Thank everyone for joining us. Facebook.com/MySoulRebel is where you can, find discussions here. Search for the Just Reasoning group on Facebook. So thank everyone for joining. It was a spirited discussion. And there's, we just laid the foundation of a lot more to discuss. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let's talk these things. Real issues, real talk about real things. So big up everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My guests, HCPA, big up on ourselves. Love on her. And until next time, peace.
Bye.